Right.
And in her case, the circle referred partly to wholeness and balance, but also partly to the practice of sitting in a circle with the preschoolers for a variety, and not just preschoolers in those days, but for a variety of things. So circle was wholeness, balance, and a reference to that.
Yeah, this I don't know how to translate it. Let me ask. Hi, Tony. Tony,
Hi.
I think you're from New Zealand. You see, there is summer there. He's sitting in the
Tony.
summer.
Tony Krasner. Hi.
Hi,
New
Tony.
Zealand.
Здравствуйте, Катерина. Catherine will be a translator from English to Russian or from Russian to English.
Okay.
So, Tony and Artyom. Tony, can you see in interpretation, and interpretation, please switch to English. Otherwise, you start hearing a lot of Russian. Да. Ага. Ага. Ну, я сейчас переключился на английский.
To me, sounds like some kind of broken Serbian when they talk about archaic, very archaic.
Yeah, interesting.
Because they're very similar, but still very different.
Yeah.
Hi, Diana.
Hi, Diana.
Hello.
Yeah, Diana, can you switch to English, please? Do you see that interpretation? And
Yeah.
otherwise you will start hearing a lot of Russian, unless you want to learn Russian.
Yeah. I'm not seeing that choice.
It should be on the bottom and should say, it's like
Oh, gotcha. I was thinking it was in my own choices up here.
I see. Hi, Daniel. I don't know Daniel, and I don't know if Daniel speaks Russian or English.
Hello, everybody. Well, we do speak both. So.
In this case, but you need to choose one language, otherwise you will hear cacophony. You need to select either Russian or English.
Where do I select it?
It should be a globe, icon of the globe on the bottom, somewhere in the bottom. Can you see that?
You mean like this interpretation?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, well, I'm fine with the setting that I have now.
Okay, okay. Well, just to let you know that if it becomes difficult for you, you can switch to one of them.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, that's good to know.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. The people are coming slowly.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
So there's somebody who is doing a Russian interpretation. Some participants feel Russian. Anna, Marianova, Michelle, and Brad Lucas. And Anna, you know that. Yeah. No, just start. Just start. Oh, Michelle, yeah, we're trying to make sure that we can get within one frame of this camera. Okay. We're going to hear the English side of this, right? Yes,
Not
yeah,
the
yeah.
Russian side. Unless you want to listen to Russian.
Why don't you sit near so that you're also in the frame?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
see, on the top here, where, yeah.
Kind of like,
If you can see yourself, you're fine. If you cannot, you have to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you're fine. Hi, Kiwandra.
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm well. Good to see you all.
Good to see
Good to
you.
see you.
Kiwandra, can you see interpretation sign? So my recommendation for you to switch to English, unless you prefer to to hear Russian.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna be watching a film,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
is that in Russian too?
No,
No,
it's
no,
in
no.
Is there gonna
English.
be subtitles?
No, that
It's
will be in
in
English.
English, but I think there are subtitles there.
Sometimes when it's difficult to hear kids, they
Yeah.
put the subtitles.
But it will be translated for the Russian listeners, right?
Well,
Yes, but we won't hear
I
that.
think they already watched that.
Oh, okay.
And so they,
I see.
Mhm.
yeah, I wish they had actually subtitles for everything, but
Uh-huh.
unfortunately, only when kids are speaking and we couldn't hear them well.
Mhm.
It's actually interesting endeavor what they did, like how they make the video. We can actually maybe discuss that as well, how they make that movie.
Mhm. I forgot what year was it made?
2011.
I think there are, yeah.
Should we start?
Yeah, I think we probably should.
Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
time to start. Yeah.
Okay.
Martin, Nancy, and Evan. Okay.
Are they coming?
I thought so. Well, I don't know.
We can
They
wait
both
another.
responded, but they're, this wouldn't be Jenny's cup of tea. So they can't both be here, but I thought it was one of them.
We're off at a Chuck E. Cheese or something.
We can wait another 3 minutes. We want to wait.
Yeah, if we can wait another
Yeah.
couple, I think I'll go ahead.
Okay, let me see what's going on because it's maybe okay. I have 3 microphones, Katerina. I have 3 microphones. I will switch one by one. Tell me which one becomes better for you. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm switching from to the. How about now? Is it better? Okay. How about this one? This one probably very good because it's from my computer now.
Can you hear people who are not exactly on the computer?
Can you hear Anna?
Diane?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem also we have masks, and that masks really muffle our
We
voices.
will repeat if you didn't hear
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Don't. Feel free to interrupt and just ask to repeat, and I will try to repeat because I'm sitting next to the mic. Alternatively, we can actually move it here, my dear. I'm just thinking.
Is there enough?
Yeah, there is enough wire. Can move that maybe even almost in the middle. What do you think? Okay, let me try and see what they think. By the way, Kate has 3 mics actually. Okay, Cody, you can actually see that we cannot see you. So try. This is our frame.
Try to be in the frame.
Try to be visible in the frame.
There are seats in back behind here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, one more try. Catherine, what about this time? Is it okay or not? Or is it... It's fine because now it's still the speaker is there.
Oh, okay.
So we can use that because it's pretty good speaker there.
Okay.
Better for than my laptop.
Right. And you need to hear the movie through that speaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think We are waiting a little bit for Jim, and then we can start. And Cody. And do we have somebody from the Albany school who knows Albany school, Albany Free School? No? Because Jim mentioned somebody.
Somebody interned.
Somebody who had interned, no?
That's not a, we had visited, but we don't.
But you visit, oh, you at least visited there, so.
Jean-Marie Pierce. She was in.
Jean
Russia.
Marie here.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jean.
she lives in Vermont now,
Ah,
Oh, okay.
so but she's on the board of a school like this in Pittsburgh, but that's the part I never really. know.
Okay.
But she supposedly interned in,
I see,
in the
yeah,
Albany
yeah.
school.
okay, so I'm start sharing the screen. Okay, and how to reorganize that? I'm usually at home. I use two screens. Okay, maybe like this.
Yes.
So we can see people. And can I increase? No, I cannot. Well, for a while we will just be watching the movie. And okay. So I cannot say much about movie itself to introduce you, except it was made 2011, and my feeling that it's made by somebody who is a Warren school or some kind of very familiar to schools. It just, you can see that people address that person and sounds like that familiar to even to the children in the school. And it's just prepare, it's strange the way how it should. Initially, you will see maybe first 5 or maybe 10 minutes, you just see scenes without much commentaries or anything. And then it slowly starts. There are many events there. Some events, it's just a conflicts among children and they show how it resolved in the school. Also, they show some activities, they show classes, they show at least writing class for very young children. They're learning how to use cursive, I think, looks like, right, Anna?
Yes.
And also they show very briefly, unfortunately, math class. You cannot see that much, but you can see that it's a math class. They also see very interesting activities there, like kids are making movie, and you will see that as well. And you will see also a very interesting activity of the kids working in school and fixing school, certain things in school. Like one boy broke the window in the, and then fixing that, and with the teacher who helping that how to do that. You also will see a trip to the forest, and very interesting. You also see a traumatic event for the school. So they had, because this is urban school, but they have nearby school looks like somewhere, animal farm. And somebody went there at night, looks like, and put that on fire. And unfortunately, many animals died. And you see kind of the grief, the school going through the grief and how they, the whole event around that. The whole video is about hour and 8 minutes. Just one thing that maybe pay attention to Chloe. There is a girl who is 6 years old, because they started that and it's actually developing a story. But initially you don't know that it will be a story about her. And if you don't pay attention, you will just like, oh, wait a minute, how whole thing started? But they show how it started, but it just, you need to pay, but they didn't tell you, pay attention, there will be a story. It was going through the, they will develop to the story, yes, with her. And she will get to the conflict with Max, another boy, 6 years old boy. But again, watch them carefully because they started before that, but initially I didn't pay much attention. Now, in terms of my role, I'm trying to kind of facilitate because basically what I'm interested in your responses to that, like maybe comparisons with the Circle School or Free School in Philadelphia or whatever schools you know. Well, it will be interesting, like what you think about that, what attracted your attention, what you like, what maybe you don't like, or how it will be done differently in the school or maybe in Free School of Philadelphia. Any of your comments is just gold mine for me, at least personally, because I'm so interested, like what you think about it and why, like why you like, don't like why it will be different, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the school is, my understanding, this is rather unique school. It's difficult for me to compare with other schools. It definitely not looks like a Sudbury Valley School or Circle School. Not even, I would not call it similar to Summerhill either. It's just, it's its own animal in a way, its own species. So it's interesting to think and consider that what kind of interesting democratic school it is, with all its pluses and minuses, how you see them.
Is everybody here? Everybody? Okay. Michelle, Reb, Anna.
This doesn't seem that this is turned on, but
All right, one, we all just introduce.
Okay. Okay.
Eugene and Anna, I think you haven't met.
They're from University of Delaware and School of Education, and interested in democratic schools and logic schools and all of the above and other things.
Now everybody's met everybody?
I hope tomorrow. You're both from Philly?
This is our
Yeah, we're visiting for 3 days, so this is, we just went for
So we talked to Pepper,
No, okay, yeah, Pepper's
Mhm.
very engaged. She's great.
yeah, she's okay.
Good keeper.
And let me introduce some people on the screen that you might want to know. Artyom Fedorov, he's in Russia right now, and nearby Moscow, there is a small town that name called Tver. And he's one of the starter democratic schools there. And actually, Catherine works there. Catherine, you can see, she's a translator right now from English to Russian. And she's there teaching kids to, I think, English. I'm always confused, English or German, because she speaks so many languages. English. Okay, thank you, Catherine. And so she works in that Tver school. Tony, he's in New Zealand. Actually, when you will see his picture, you can enjoy the summer, New Zealand summer there. Daniel, I don't know Daniel. I know Diana. Diana also from University of Delaware and in School of Education. Maybe we can see that Diana. Yes, and you can see Kiondra. Kiondra actually physically in Baltimore, but she's going to be a graduate student at the University of Delaware. She will be my graduate student, and she's also she actually, Kiondra works in museum education, and she works in Baltimore Museum. And again, I don't know Daniel. Daniel maybe will introduce himself, since he speaks both Russian and English. So I don't even know where he's located physically. Maybe in Russia. So should we start watching the movie? Movie again lasts about hour and 8 minutes. Okay. Okay, I need to share the screen again.
The foundation of this school is based on a passion for free education. Children should be free. They should be able to express themselves. They should be able to do what they want.
A lot of parents come in and see the freedom and they wonder how their kids learn. And actually, that's a real important part of learning, of being left to yourself and deciding what you want to learn.
Of course, you've always got the Lord of the Flies image, you know, everybody goes there first, you know, well, you know, if you let kids run around and do what they want, then they're going to act like animals and gang up and abuse each other. And the only way to show that that isn't actually the case, you know, is to have a school where kids are free.
Oh no! Now where you get another let's see arching. Move back. This is about arching style. One more size and it's over you, okay?
Mrs. Chloe.
I'm a cat. Airplane? I can make it. I can't. I'll try. Okay, I can't make it for airplane. Okay. Oh, both. Wait. I'll try. I'll see how you just go down. It's so real it can cut things. See, look. Watch. It'll cut this. See? It's real.
Now below this, you're just up. We're gonna do, remember this sound? Down and then bumpity bump. Excellent.
I want to do it like you did.
Yeah, go ahead. Straight line down, bump, bump. And then right here, again, right next to it.
I'll just take a book and see if I have pocket.
You want to take a book and ask
Missy,
him
look at
if he wants
Missy,
to
I
come?
have pocket right here.
All right, great.
I think I'm going to put this in my copies.
Very good. You put that in your cubby.
I'll put it in my
We're finishing up the adventure that we did.
Come on. Hey, I know some leaves that we can eat and they're sour. No, stop, Blue. Stop. Blue, come down. They're berry leaves. You can eat them. I know about those trees. But they're not berries yet. This is our clubhouse. I'll get out, Kaylin. This is yours. No, it isn't. It's everybody. No, it is not. He's on. Aiden is always fast. He is so fast. It's not always you. This is my tree. It's mine. No, it isn't. Yes. No, it isn't. Yeah. Me and Joey's playing. Doesn't it sound like they're mad? Because you asked me all the time. Let me take that freaking stick. You'll get. Stop it! Do that.
You're sorry, and then we'll hear you. What happened? Tell me. You couldn't go to the berry place?
They just said that.
Were you leaving her out of your clubhouse? Look right here, right. Okay, were you leaving her out? Huh?
Who gave you the idea to do
Seen Lord of the Rings, and me and Madison wanted to make a movie because we had made all these bow and arrows and stuff. But
When do you start shooting, Miles?
we start shooting tomorrow after lunch.
You ever made a movie before?
This one's gonna be the biggest one I've ever made. Actually, a script and made weapons and stuff.
What else makes it big?
We just have a whole bunch of teachers acting in it. We have like 6, 7 actors. When you know us can do them, there's only us two. And this time there's really gonna be a cameraman. Usually we don't have a cameraman.
Are you worried about anything? Might not go well?
Cameraman. I'm just kind of worried about the weapons breaking or like. Oh yeah, that happening. How did he get that? That went all the way up there. Free school is a place where you could play and also get learned.
Yeah, I basically live here, and so I enjoy it here. There's things that I don't like about it, and things that I do.
I do the hopscotch upstairs and do kindergarten to learn my letters. It's better than any other school, and you don't have to do classes if you don't want, and it's not too toxic or too complicated.
I just like it because I met new friends, and I like the school. I like the teachers. I like the little kids. I like everything in the school. It's just good for kids.
I like that you get the freedom of speech more than any public school. I like that you can choose what you do, that you can solve your problems for yourself and not have a teacher try to solve them for you.
It's different. Like there isn't like a load of rules and boundaries and stuff like you have in a public school.
It's better for us because then we learn faster because we want to learn it. But in public school, they had to do it, so it was boring for them.
We had to do 3 booklets to do of cursive.
Well, maybe that stuff's good. You think that was good for you, though?
Not really. It hurts my hands.
In the free school, you get to
have freedom and do what you want to do and have a childhood and actually enjoy it and not just sit down and do what two people tell you to do all the time.
It makes me feel free to not feel that I have to do something for somebody else anymore, you know? And that's definitely something that I learned through the free school.
There was no shadows, there was, you know what I mean? It was just straightforward. I could be me, and I didn't have to worry about somebody saying, well, that's not right, that's not normal.
It's amazing how the kids can solve their own problems and be real with each other. And explore at their own pace and explore what they want to when they're ready. I love the field trips. I love going out into the wilderness, into the city. I love exploring with the kids.
It's us kind of being aware of each individual kid's process here at school and allowing them to like work that out with other kids and not hopping in like we know best all the time, or hopping in like we know, you know, the solution.
I don't ever force anyone to be in my space with me, but I'll encourage, only in a playful way that'll make it like, I'm not going to judge you. Let's do this that works for you. And I might be asking this of you, but boy, I have a lot of respect for whatever you're going to do too. You know, you want to sit there and draw whatever you want to draw, that's fine. And I'm going to do this with the rest of the kids.
The freedom of the teacher not having to have lesson plans and a curriculum to follow and expectations of what a kid has to learn by a certain level, a certain day, a certain month, a certain year, you know, pass this test, spit back these facts so we know that you memorize these things. Then the teacher has time to really care about the person inside that little body.
You know, I just think that a lot of times kids get talked to so differently by adults, and it's amazing to see the way they respond to being talked to as equals. You know, the depth of understanding that they have, and the kind of the trust that comes out of that between adults and kids. You know, I think a lot of kids come to us suspicious of adults, and when they're here and when we interact with them, they get to see that we're all just people.
You know, we're 60 or so adults and kids sharing that space every day, eating together, learning together, playing together, solving problems together. You know, we together, and it really is very much a we together. You know, it is like a village. We together are constructing each day.
So much difficulty. I've at least got the hang of the thickness, the bottom, but the walls is so difficult.
Well, it does take, it takes getting your own feel of what to do with your hands. Different people do different things.
Yeah, I tried to imitate you, but I don't think I'm not comfortable with your style, so I'm doing a different style. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
That's all I have.
It's sturdier than this?
Oh yeah.
What's that like?
That really tough stuff, yeah.
Where is it now again?
I go up in the hayloft, it'll be hanging all over the place usually. Or, you know, you can take some off some hay.
I gotta go to the goat barn and get some wine. Do you want to come with me?
I do. Me too.
this feels like another clique. Because, I mean, Paul and that, I'm surprised they actually got better and that stopped. But now these girls are doing what they were doing. I mean, I can see it. Look at them. Look at them sitting right next to each other. Look at Julie on there and Risa over here. See? You can see it right here at the council meeting. It's pretty obvious.
They always exclude them. I was there. I witnessed it. They were like, no, only our friends. We're going to go up to the park, but you can't go. I was like, well, let her go. She's tall. Don't let them go if they're not going to let her go. That's not fair.
People say, I'm in a clique. Just because I hang out with certain people. Just because you have a certain amount of friends. Like, I hang out with, like, Melissa and Holly. Oh, yeah, we're in a clique now. Oh, my God.
Just because, it's not the only reason, just because they won't let me go to the park with them. They're just always being mean to me every day, and I don't like it. I feel so left out, and the only person I get to play with mostly is Julie and Samantha. And Chloe.
How can you guys tell her to go to the park? If she wants to go to the park, you guys can't just say, no, you can't come, only our friends can, because it's not your choice.
Like, she can still go to the park, but if they don't want to play with her at the park, they don't have to. I don't have to play with Max if I don't want to. You can't force me to play with anybody. You can't force them to play with anybody. It's wrong, because then, see, Risa's unhappy right now, but if you force them to hang out with Risa, maybe they'll be unhappy. And all it'll be is they'll reverse the situation, and they'll do the same thing.
Emma?
Well, I wouldn't like it, and I said I would try to be nicer to Risa. And I know we are kind of a clique, but so are you guys. You guys hang out?
I didn't say anything! Water! It's fun.
Matt, what? You want? I don't know where to come in your hat. I don't know where. That is not great.
Nah, I know it wasn't good.
But
this is gonna be look.
Put your hood back on.
Yeah, my hood gives me good luck.
Hey, Miles. Actually, I think it's better if you come here to shoot your movie.
We're gonna shoot it at a lot of places.
You guys go into. You guys get these two.
When I say after I say, where are your fathers? You say the back room, and where do we go to?
You go to the back room.
You go right where the kitchen is.
Okay.
All right, places.
I know.
Can I sit over there?
Actually, no, go outside. All right, everyone. Places.
On the keyboard.
3, 2, 1, and action. I think kids want to learn. They just, they want to learn because they don't want to be lost in life. They want to know things. If you're going to be good at something, you should be good at it off your own steam. Like, you shouldn't have someone being like, all right, now try this. You have to try this because it's going to change your life.
What if you never do anything?
You never do anything, that's your problem.
This is a vet right here, and we've got a few snakes, and we've got 2 hamsters, and we've got a baby dog. Here's a baby puppy. It's really cute. This is all the medicine and stuff. That's our file cabinet thingy. And the snakes go in there, but we haven't gotten the snakes yet. And in here's the bird cage with the nest, and that chalk stuff is the worms.
Tell me about girls' class and what you guys do.
Girls group. It's just a place where me and the other girls my age and some visiting girls go, and we talk about girl issues if we have any issues with each other. We have snacks sometimes, and we made an altar. Everybody took their stuff back now because it's the end of the year. I think it's a good space that you can let out personal feelings, if you want to. And I just think that it's a cool thing to do.
Look at this, Joe. I broke it. Tomorrow I'm gonna sand it and level it out. It was rustling and I slammed into it.
Your back went through it or something?
A butt. I broke stuff last year too.
Which way?
Anybody think they can do one, or do we want? Or you guys want to do it on paper?
Yeah, you should. No, can you just show us one?
You see this plus? If this plus wasn't here, then it would be one where you multiply the number on the outside.
What I like about the free school is that we can do whatever you want to. It's free. I can do whatever I want, when I want, how I want. And after a while of doing what you want to do and fooling around and just horseplaying, you kind of do want to learn at a certain point. You just, like, you know what, I don't feel like playing today. I'm going to pick up a book. So it makes you learn better. And when you want to learn, you learn better than how somebody forcing you to learn.
I don't know if I did it right, but I did it. I did it. I'm still gonna try. I did it.
Max, come back to this. That big thing he popped. Max.
Is this something you can handle without a council meeting?
Because Max said he didn't stop. What he said? He did. People think something she can't call to me.
So, did you tell him to cut it
I
out?
need my baby. I need to go. Get it.
Chloe, a council meeting is only if you've tried everything you can possibly try and it's not working.
Hey,
Not just because you're mad.
Alright,
go see if you can talk to Max first.
Max, you stop. I'm not doing anything.
Max, come here for a second.
Hey.
Max, don't
You stop.
You stop.
Max, you stop.
Hey, Max,
no.
is your Bill Sprout first edition?
Why are you stop? Yes. I want Casman.
Council meeting's like when someone is having a problem and someone is picking on them or something.
There's a stop rule. If you say stop and they don't listen, then you can say stop again. If they don't listen, you call a council meeting.
It's pretty cool to if you call a council meeting, but not if the other person calls it.
Everybody downstairs, first grade and up to 8th grade, and then the teachers downstairs for those grades.
There's a big circle downstairs and that big room over there, and they work out the problem.
I just think that they're good to solve problems, but these people, they don't know what the heck they're doing, and they're just sitting there doing all this crap, and they're going from one thing to the other, and from this to that, and all that. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes it can be like 3 hours, sometimes it can be like 3 minutes.
The longest one we've had was 2 hours and 30 minutes. It was long and annoying. At the end, they finally adjourned it. They only had one council meeting on me.
What was that like?
It was pretty weird.
3 people get nominated to be chairperson.
The chairperson basically runs the council meeting.
They try and keep it quiet, and one person talks at a time, and if you want to talk, you raise your hand, and they'll call on you by name.
I only like council meetings if they're nice and short.
Nominates are me, Terry, and Crimson. All for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9, 10, 11,
Don't need to count.
12, 13, 14, 15, 50. I'm preparing. I have it. Who called this council meeting? Order. Chloe.
Max, he poked me.
Oh. Max.
Yeah, maybe I got into your dreams. That never happened. I never touched you with this pole. I didn't touch you. I didn't do anything to you.
Oh. Chloe, what do you want from Max? You want him to say sorry? Because I think it was a mistake, and I think he didn't mean to do it.
Oh, Chloe. Max, you said sorry to me.
Is that a question? What was your name? Max?
Yes, I will. Sorry.
You're apologizing for something you never did? Just to get out of the meeting?
Yeah, mostly.
That's too bad.
Chloe, Max, you said sorry to me. Max, call for the vote.
Chloe, what is it that you wanted to stop? Is it scaring you? Is it poking you? What is it? And tell him what you want him to stop.
Chloe?
No, that scared me. Cause a hawk, it like a brick.
No.
This isn't her like 2 bricks, and just so you know, I did not touch you. I know this would hurt if I dropped it on someone's head, but I didn't touch you with this.
If you didn't touch him, why are you saying sorry?
Cause,
Raise your hand.
well, I didn't want him. I take that back.
Actually, that's not the whole entire thing. Max said, look, I'm gonna go scare Chloe. I remember you said that. I was putting my cards away, and you put the thing on your thumb, and you walked in there saying, and you scared Chloe, and Chloe dropped her saw and ran. She goes over there into the cement block thingy that one of the little kids made, and pushed it up, and then I went inside. Chris?
Max, is it true what Zach said, that you said you wanted to go scare Chloe with that piece of pipe?
No.
That's true, but I didn't, she looked at me, and then she said stop. I said okay. I walk over there, and I'm about to put the pipe there. She runs out.
Chris?
So you're saying you stopped the moment she said stop?
Question.
Cole, I think we get the point. You keep going back and back to each other. I know Max scared you. I know you dropped him at a pole. Maybe he scared you a little bit. You know that you're scared and he got freaked out and everything. Maybe he hurt you or something. I didn't see the whole thing and everything. I saw some of it, and I know you get the point. You're just gonna keep going back and forth, and this constantly is gonna be going forever.
So I guess the question, Max, is why did you want to scare Chloe?
Well, maybe because all the time, like, she's been all mean and usually when she's like, when she's upstairs, she's running over to the teacher and said,
So you were being mean to Chloe because you're mad with her. Ah.
Max, whatever you do comes back to you. Whatever goes around comes around. You scare Chloe, something, it's called threefold. Comes back 3 times worse. Like you scare Chloe, some will come back to you. Chloe?
No, I like you. Do that. You scare me. Max. Chloe, I would never hit you with anything. I don't joke around with that. I don't try to
scare you. Well, that time I did. But, stop, and I did not hit you, and I'll put the ball back after the meeting to call for the vote. Chris?
Chloe, are you still mad?
No. Catherine speak.
Adjourn? Okay. Any more discussions for the vote? All in favor of adjourn this council meeting? Any second? All opposed? Council meeting adjourned.
You're supposed to come in this
This is wrong. I stopped because it looked like some cheap thing. I was halfway in between each fight, and I was getting one person of each fight. You guys should either get closer or do it my way.
We said, go back and forth. You can do
That's what I'm doing.
Let's just do it his way.
Let me do it.
No, let's do it, okay?
Oh my god, I can get all of them in.
We're doing it his way now, alright? Wesley. You in on one and then the other.
That's what I'm doing. It looks like some cheap.
It's not Broadway. It's not Star Wars. It's not that kind of movie.
It would be easier for me to film one fight at a time.
If it isn't, well, it's not all about you, Wesley.
What? That should be a reverse question or reverse comment. Yeah. You guys are like being stuff like that. Oh, and I quit. We need some other cameraman.
Yeah, Ben. Wait, no, can't. Fine, because you can't do anything you want.
I don't want to be solving the problem. If I film it, then it's like, okay, then I'm taking over control of it. I don't want to do that. I think this is something that you guys should be solving.
Here, Wesley, you do the fight. I'll film.
No, let him.
What do you mean, hell no? What's wrong with Wesley?
Oh, dude.
He doesn't know what to do. Like you do. I do.
Why don't you do the fight then?
Sorry, Mr. I am doing the fight.
No Miles left.
See, Wesley?
You're the director.
I know, but they're not listening to me.
You gotta make sure they're listening. You're the director. Maybe they need to be reminded that you're the director. In a movie, how many directors are there? And who is it? Who is it in this one?
No, Wesley isn't doing the fighting.
Right, you tell them.
Because
Who's doing it?
Ben's doing it.
Go in on one. Let Sarah do it.
Sarah wants to let her do it.
Okay, but he can't do the fighting. We made up this whole thing that he has no idea what it is, and we have not even a minute to do this.
Figure it out that all you have to do
You're
is
making
back up
Miles
while
is
she's
director.
not
Listen to him. Let him do it. He's director. Listen to him.
arguing.
Miles, decide what you want.
Back his face to everyone else.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna try to just get
Big expensive equipment really.
Just get close, okay?
Look way back.
Austin, turn over. Come on, let's go. I feel like I'm 100 degrees. And I can't move.
The life of a director.
Hi.
the glass and then buy a new one?
I hope the hardware store on the other side of the mountain has glass. Pretty sure it must.
She likes it. I was wondering, do you sell glass here?
Yeah.
Could I have a 32 by 22 and a 24 by 32? Here. Thank you.
No school today?
Well, this is part of school.
Oh, this is part of school.
Yeah. The kids are learning plumbing on the job because we have some frozen pipes out here this winter and some broken pipes, and we got to get the water going so that we can use the place, and that's...
Where's your camp now? Lake Elizabeth?
Yeah, it's the old Cedar House, the first big camp right at the foot of the hill.
What's going down?
After lunch, I'll show you guys how to get that glass out of the window, all right?
All right.
Oh, Victor, you're doing nice looking.
Grab me out though. Watch your boy. Ew. Chris, I think I popped my vein. I think I popped my vein. Dude, that's stuff. My vein is dropping now. What happened? It fell on my hand.
Oh boy.
Was here? I need help. You won't come over now.
Where is it? There's a cut right there?
Yeah.
Let's fix you up first. Come on. No glass in there.
No, I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, because I broke a couple windows, and usually if you was in a normal school, they'll just tell your mom would have to pay for it, and they would do it, or they would just fix it and just give you detention. But in a free school, I had to go find the money, fix the window, buy the window, and go and fix the window. And I broke like 4 windows in the school. I don't look at the teachers in the free school as a teacher. I look at them like my friend, my family. Some kids, they like to steal a lot, like to just beat things up by them going to the free school and reacting with their feelings and talking to other teachers and talking to other students. Kind of let themselves free up, loosen up. 32 or something.
Well, yeah, 32 and something, right? So now we got to count the somethings.
You know, usually every year kids get stuff from teacher and never give nothing back. But this year I want to make it different. I want to give something back. I want to give something to all the teachers. You know what I'm saying, right? Because every year somebody always gets stuff from teachers and nobody never want to give you a hug, get a flower. I want to give the teachers something good. Like Chris, I buy him a black sweatsuit.
I think that Chloe, is the kind of kid that challenges a lot of people. She has every emotion at her fingertips at all times. She's very in touch with her anger, with her joy, with her body. And at times that's really hard, but other times you feel pure joy when she feels pure joy. And there's something about her. There's a light in her. She's bound and determined to fill the room every time she goes somewhere. A lot of people didn't agree with me on my decision to bring her there because they felt like it was too much stimuli. She wouldn't be getting the special services that she needed. But I really felt like this is the right thing to do. That I needed to let her experience life, and she had a sense of herself, and probably a deep appreciation for just being allowed to be herself.
They get to find out about how other people think, how other kids feel. Work together as groups. The counseling meetings are great. The kids get together and be able to confront whatever problems they're having, where instead you'd go to the principal's office and it would be up to the principal to make a decision. This way they get to converse and find out, well, truth, this is not how I feel, or truth can say, well, this is not what I meant. And I think it's a very good thing. They get to feel and, you know, different things that go on. So I think he's developing. I see a lot of changes in him, his attitude. He thinks more before he reacts. And I think that's good.
Oh.
You been in public school before?
Yeah.
Bill, you climb trees in public school?
No.
Why not?
Because they don't like us too that much, because they think we're gonna break the branches and hurt and just fall out of trees and just break branches and hurt the tree really badly.
Do you break the branches here?
No.
Have you ever fallen out of a tree here?
No, I have fallen out of a tree on my fence.
Well, in public schools, they try to keep you more safe. They don't want you to fall or anything.
Yeah,
But do you get hurt more often at the preschool, you think?
No, I don't. Because at my old public school at Monster Magnet School, I just had to stay inside, do nothing for hours. Instead of read, write, that's all.
What do you do here for hours?
Just play around and do all that stuff.
What about your future, though? You can't play your whole life, right?
Yeah, my future is hard to deal with.
You don't want to do it?
No.
I used to go to school there. It was a school. I swear, St. Anthony's School. It used to be run by nuns. St. Joseph nuns. Yeah. Then I had a fight with one of the nuns.
Really?
And I hit her.
Did you?
I did. and they threw me out, so I didn't give a shit. And I never went back. Me and my sister-in-law.
No kidding.
Yeah, I went to school there.
What was it like when you went to school?
Yeah, it was good. You had to do homework, and we had to come home and make our beds for my mother and all that stuff. Do that first, and then we do the homework last minute.
What about fun? What do you guys do for fun?
No fun.
So what do you think of a school like this that's kind of lets kids be a little more freer and...
Here?
Yeah, they let them have a little more choice.
They ain't supposed to be doing that with it. They're supposed to be strict.
They're not learning anything.
That's right.
They're having too much. One kid, I asked one, I said, when do you go to class? We don't go to class. You don't what? What do you do all day? We play all day. I've had more than one kid from over there to tell me they do not have to go to class. They play all day. So, if you're going to let them come over there and play all day, they're not going to get anything. You should have your daily schedule just like you would have it if you was teaching in a college.
Like when I think about the school, it's more of what molded me to be able to cope with the basics of life, and like, so it has more meaning than an elementary school where you go to school and I learned how to read and write or what have you. It was more of a developing a person than it was just a school for me.
It taught me not so much, the book, stuff you learn in a book, but everyday life. And at the time I didn't see that, and I was thinking I was stupid because I didn't know how to spell and stuff like that. And I could read and stuff, but my handwriting wasn't good. And I used to go to the after school program where they used to have homework and stuff, and I'd see what they were doing, and I would look at what I'm doing, and I didn't think it compared. So I wanted to go to public school because I thought it was holding me back.
I was really good in art, and all the kids, they would be impressed by that. But then, when I would go into another area and I didn't know something, it was you don't know this, or and it's it something that probably wasn't important to me being a whole person or anything, but it was something that like I felt a lot of shame about not knowing certain things, and then it just goes deeper and deeper, and then you just think, oh, I'm stupid. Or it was a big wake-up call to like how our society makes who you are. Like what you are is what you know, or where you've been, or what you're doing with yourself.
What we're going to have to feel, because it's hot now, right? Pretty hot. But if we're out in Grafton and it suddenly starts to get cold, if you notice it getting cold, then that means a thunderstorm is going to be coming pretty soon. So because we're going to be in the woods, so we're going to have to be listening and feeling, because if we hear thunder, I think we're going to have to, these thunderstorms are so bad, we're going to have to get straight to we don't have to panic, but it'll be time to leave and walk up to the van, because once you're in the van, you're safe because the rubber tires keep the electricity from going through us and into the ground.
What if it hits
So
the top?
it's okay, the tires will keep us safe because the tires are rubber.
Come get your lunch! Your drink and your sandwich is still in there, and you're not going to be able to come back to the van. Yeah! You break it, door. Shut up. Oh my god. The top part is like the preschool. Oh. It's a preschool. Jeez. Why does it have to say the preschool?
I gotta keep it until 3
It's
o'clock.
ours? Yeah, we own the lady owns the land. We do? Yeah. Preschool owns it. Oh. But what if we're not on the road and we're nowhere near the road? Then we just look, then we just, what if we can't, what if all we could find is all these trees surrounding us? Then we're lost for good. Yeah. No, and then we just look around and lost even more. And then all of a sudden, oh! And I'll be like, ah! No, just keep walking through the forest. There has to be an end to a forest. Can I go back?
What you scared of?
Yeah, they keep howling, but I keep hearing wolves too. Feel wolves.
There's no wolves. You know what live in these woods? What lives in these woods that's like a wolf?
Coyote?
Yeah. Coyotes. But they come out at night, and they don't attack people anyway. So.
Sometimes they just...
Coyotes are scared of... We're totally fortunate to have 2 pieces of beautiful land out in the country, about 25 miles from the school. In Grafton, what we call the land, there isn't really much of anything. We have built a small yurt-style building, kind of down in the middle of the forest. There are some pretty nice trails that the old man that gave us the land had already put in. And there's streams and all kinds of cool stuff to get into. And it's just a great place for just kind of getting lost in the woods and doing the kind of things you do when you're lost in the woods. If kids are allowed and able to spend enough time in the natural world, nature will teach them. They'll learn these things on their own, just through their own direct experience. It's out in nature that children discover beauty, that they learn about natural things, plants, animals, weather. So there's so much about nature that is precious.
I don't want to get my shoes wet. I just had a wet 2 days ago. Come on, Eli, catch up to me. I'm trying. Shout! What'd you do? Oh, crap! You did a little something kind of like that. I didn't fall on once. It vibrates your hand. Whoa! I fell! Ah! Me too!
I didn't realize that's a pretty deep little pool. I didn't know. It's 2 feet deep. Anyway.
Our shoes are
back. You can stay here now. If you want to stay, you can. I'll go back and check. I'm going to check on the other kids.
Why is it shivering? It's cold. That's not a baby. That's an adult. I have a dead bat in the room.
Good eye, Eli. You were the one to see it first? Wow,
I saw it
good
too.
eye.
Yeah,
Eagle.
I told you. Can I move it with
It's a beautiful bat. No, just leave it alone. Oh, did you see where it came
No,
from?
I was just taking them, and then I got down and I saw it.
Guys,
wasn't there before.
You guys woke it up, but you see how he's shaking and shivering?
Yeah.
I know, and bats don't usually come out in the daytime. That's why I think he might be sick. And I think that is a full-grown bat. That's as big as bats get. Their wings are really big.
I have this little kid here. It looks just like
It just went. It took off. It took off.
Oh, did it fly?
Yeah. It flew away. Do you have any for me? It took off. Are we leaving, Chris? This is going to be an awesome story.
It's the first time I ever saw a bat fly in the middle of the day.
Raindrops. Yeah. Do you feel any raindrops? Talab did. It's going to rain any minute. Hey guys, everybody get in their places. Get back in. I got it. Harry, get in. It's gonna rain. Yeah, it's gonna rain. Yeah, it's gonna rain. Everybody, we like rain. We like rain.
So, let me see. I think this box is mostly free school stuff. And, yeah, oh, this goes way back. No, this is Junie, and that's Megan, and this is Jessica, and that's, I forget that little kid's name. There's no philosophy. It's just, it's a passion thing. And we're one of the very few that works with this age group, all the way from second year or whatever, third year, all the way up through 8th grade, so that you get the full range of early and middle childhood, and you really have a chance to help kids sort out their priorities such that they develop patterns of looking at life in terms of these principles. You don't teach principles, you've got to live it. This is how you learn democracy, you know? And you can't learn it theoretically. That's baloney, you know? It doesn't work. They have to be with kids from different walks of life and different colors and so on, and be able to express themselves honestly.
I never went out here. Get over here. Get over here. You're gonna drown. No. Okay. Ew. Oh, God. Go, go, go. Come on, Chew. Pigeon attack.
I wouldn't stand under that if I was them. They should watch out because they can get swimming.
Oh no. Oh, I'm sorry to bother you. Sorry about that. But it's just it's a bad scene. I mean, somebody, you know, at 11 o'clock Saturday night, torched the barn. The goats are dead. It was a horrendous fire, and
What burned down? The goat barn. And the goat died and the chicken died. Goat barn? Yeah, and the goats died and the chicken died.
So all the goats are dead. How did they die? How do you think they died?
Only 2 limbs. Two chickens.
Because the smoke filled up so quickly.
the heat and the smoke.
Yeah.
Oh, so they didn't have nowhere to escape.
Probably first they ran out of air. Fire eats air. It takes all the oxygen away. Yeah.
After lunch, go to the goats.
Oh my god. Kristen already started.
No, that's the barn. The goats are dead. They buried them. Yeah, they're at the barn. That's why we're going there.
How did the goats die though? I mean the fire. I mean like who started it? What?
We don't know that.
How it started?
People started it.
Who started it?
2 people. You don't know.
I utter.
No, you don't.
Let's put this to rest. We don't know how the fire started.
Right.
All we know is right now it's really early and a lot of us are really upset. And let's deal with that right now. We'll find out in time.
Any other activities or announcements?
Two crosses. You make a triangle in the air. Put that down. What we're doing?
We'll go this way, guys. Yep. Follow me. Go and see the goats.
Down there with the stairs. And then remember that water. Yeah. Probably that's the food. Down there. Yeah, no. Stairway right there. Now that's where the goats. And over there. Those are the stairs. Those were where the stairs. And that's where the chickens. The baby chicks were. And everybody remember that was down. Remember that was where Eclipse was pregnant. Yeah, over here was where Eclipse was. And here was. And that's where there's a chicken. That's where the chicken lays. And I love you so, dear ones, shall I tell you what I know? You have given me your treasure, and I love you so. Dear ones, shall I tell you what I know? You
Are they big fat seeds, Lily? Oh, yeah.
You're gonna put them one next to the other, Malachi. So we want one like here. Come on over here. Yep.
No, we don't need that far. Come on over here and get your seeds. Come on and get your seeds. There you go. Here, Lily's gonna give you your seeds.
I divide.
Good job. That's perfect.
You see how they're putting them in right there?
I did that one. Now can I cover that one up?
Yep, and then you're gonna push the dirt over and pat it. Down here, Blessed. See right in here?
Just in pieces.
There's all sorts of stuff in the soil. It's making it healthy.
There's more here.
You want some more?
Not so hard. Add it. I'm just... Don't get me.
No, we don't have extra clothes. Okay. Oh, okay, at the flowers.
See the cat. Yes! Hey, guess what? It's wearing
There's always activity, you know, and there's always buzzing going on in the backyard, in the kitchen. You can go anywhere in the building and you feel an aliveness of some kind, and engage with someone on a meaningful level.
What our school is about helping kids to really discover by daily practice that they're autonomous people, that they can think for themselves. They can figure things out. They can solve their own problems. They can shape their own world. You know, it's kind of a central message that we're giving kids every day is, you know, it's your life. It's your mind. It's your education. How do you want to do it?
And unfortunately, in the rigidity that's coming about in the culture and in the educational system, it's shutting all that down more and more. People are fearful of this type of education and letting children be free and trusting that children know something.
Okay, maybe we should have some, I don't know, do you need break a little bit before we can start? No? Break?
No, we're fine.
We're fine? Okay. Yeah, thank you. So what do you think? What attracted your attention? What you like, what you don't like? Comparisons? Whatever on your mind.
I noticed that there were well, that's not true. There were very little electronic devices like phones, iPads, things like that.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was because it was 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Or because that's for.
Yeah.
I think it was
2011.
No, I think it was before that.
I placed this at like 99.
It was released 2011, but again, I don't know when it was shot. It was released 2011, it says.
Yeah, those were alumni that said when they went to school, but it could be that it was beginning of the 2000s. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
It's from the computers that I did see and sports jerseys I saw. I'm guessing around 2000. And the computers then weren't as much fun. I saw a couple computers and they didn't look very fun.
Computers were not at that time much fun in about 2000, so that's what his remark was.
Maybe it's more important for them to hear us than see us. Maybe we can all put our chairs closer to the speaker.
Okay.
Because who cares about our faces? Really, if we're too far away to really.
Well, the speaker is actually here, not there. Yeah,
Microphone?
Yeah, microphone is here because they said that's the best what they hear. For some reason, they don't.
Then come around.
Yeah, so maybe you can come around me, and you know what? I will actually, they can see us because I can turn this with the camera as well.
We can also put this speaker. We hear them through this. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. A little bit more of a circle. Is this better, Catherine?
Well, now they cannot see us for some reason. I don't know what we're gonna do. But they cannot disconnect the okay.
Because it looks like your camera is turned off.
Well, it's not turned off. Looks like it is. Yeah. Oh, it's here turned off.
That's better.
Oh, why is it turned off? No, it's okay. Let me put that the back. I hope. Oh, this is not camera. This is not camera. Let me do this.
I just want to hit start video. That button down.
You think? Oh,
there you go.
thank you. It's much easier problem than I thought. Good. So again, I difficult. Maybe I should move as well from the computer. Yes, thank you. Okay, good. So what's your observations? What did you notice? What attracted your attention?
I really liked the council meeting way of dealing with conflict. And I'm glad that we got to see the snippet where she said, council meeting is a last resort after you've tried everything else. Because I really love the aspect of first learn to deal with it rather than just, immediately just the idea of like writing somebody up for something rather than dealing with a conflict yourself or attempting to. And second, the fact that when there's a conflict, it impacts the whole community. So even when you're not involved in a conflict directly, it kind of acknowledges that the energy of that conflict affects everyone. And so when everybody comes together to talk about it, everybody can kind of has the option to throw in their wisdom or thoughts or ideas. And it just felt really compassionate and caring and like very family-like, where everybody was kind of there to assist those two kids in dealing with their feelings over this conflict. And I just think that's the most important learning of all at that age. So I was really compelled by that.
But it will be not done like that in circle school, right?
The formal process would still be the last resort, that is JC ideally. But no, a conflict resolution wouldn't necessarily involve the entire community. I think an overall vibe that I got from this is a reminder that there's this polarity between individualism and communitarianism. And each democratic community finds its own equilibrium. I think for the vibe I got here was that they lean more communitarian. And so the council meeting, for example, is sort of, it's a social imposition that everyone's got to be involved in the resolution because it affects everyone. Well, it doesn't affect everyone unless that's the value in the imposition. And the circle school would lean a little bit, would lean more to the individualism side, but not an extreme. And I don't think the circle school represents sort of the, to express it in political terms, the libertarian end of the polarity, but somewhere between libertarian and, not to use an inflammatory term, but socialistic would be the political expressions of the individualism and the communitarianism. But the scene of the council meeting, that sort of resolution sometimes takes place in JC. It isn't necessarily a mimicking of a court procedure.
What about this heavy involvement of the adults in that meeting? Like how you feel about that? Because it's mostly adults with very few kids participating in that.
In the council meeting?
In the council with the employee, with the conflict of employee and Max.
Well, I felt like it was a pretty even balance. I noticed more than one child who wasn't involved speaking up. And I felt like the adults didn't over-involve themselves, actually. When they spoke, it was to say a sentence or to kind of create a step. Like, is that sufficient for you? Like, are you feeling better? What more do you need to kind of keep it moving forward? But I felt like in terms of actually emotionally resolving it, they left it largely to the kids.
I thought it was very interesting. It sort of reminded me of some of Thomas Gordon's work on parent effectiveness training. So some years ago, I did one of these courses to try and control my 7-year-old, and it was a program a bit like Triple P, but it started in 1960 or something with Thomas Gordon. And it was a way of training parents, I suppose, to engage in positive parenting. And it seemed to me that the teachers, you know, were taking an extension of this sort of idea at the family level and extending it into the classroom so that they left the problem, which is one of the tenets of this PET thing. They left the problem with the kids that had the problem, but they were there to, in the same way as other kids were, give guidance if need be or suggestions. So it seemed to me to be very good. Over and out.
This is very interesting observation because it's interesting that in that school it feels like there is no it feels like parental school to me, and which is or a communal school, but again with parental. Like in circle school there is correct me if I'm wrong, but there are some kind of boundaries between parents and the school in terms of that for example, school is not informing what everything happened.
Yeah,
school,
and we want school to be a place where kids can practice being apart from home and family and independent from home and family and independent from that parenting kind of influence. I think the same sort of interpersonal processes can take place, including an adult perspective, but it's not so much a parental perspective. So there might be, but again, it's in informal settings. It's not school government through its judicial processes imposing that in the same way. It doesn't have the force of government behind it as the JC would, or in this case, a council meeting. But ideally, that's the best conflict resolution, I think, where there isn't some imposing force or formal process.
Yeah, I feel like I'm aware of social dynamics at school that might benefit from unpacking and discussion. But I am aware of those in that if I see something and I'm in a position to give feedback, I might give feedback. Or when the situation arises that they are either choosing or forced to confront those dynamics for whatever reason, I have that perspective to lend to it. And I think I benefit from having not brought an agenda to resolving it. Like I can be sort of more impartial and maybe what I have to say is heard more because of that.
What was like in a free school, because it's also urban school in Philadelphia? Was it similar to that or not?
In which aspect?
Well, this council meeting, the resolution of the Chloe and Max conflict.
When I was there, they had both a judicial committee system and a mediation system, as well as an ombudsman. So there were multiple ways that you could handle problems, different avenues that you could use. The mediation system was more informal, and it was more about the parties speaking directly to each other than the JC, which involves more of a hearing. So yeah, the urban setting, I thought there were some similarities in terms of like taking advantage of resources in the community, like they went to a city pool, like we used to do that all the time. It was wonderful to be able to walk to places or take public transportation to places and not have to contend with finding a driver and dealing with us with the permission slips and things like that. I love. Sorry.
Probably unit director. Okay. So you can
Sorry.
that.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay. I was saying that I worked at an urban school like this, and we had the opportunity to walk or take public transportation to take advantage of some of the resources in the city. So we felt like the city was a big part of the learning opportunity for the kids, and there were so many amazing things to learn from out there. So that prevented the concerns about permission slips and finding a driver and having a vehicle that was big enough and was insured properly and all of that. Definitely a big advantage to an urban setting. But I love that they also had these tracts of land that they definitely took great advantage of. It was wonderful to see the kids being very free out in the woods.
Did you have that opportunity as well to go with the kids to the woods in Philadelphia?
We had many city parks. We had a lot of outside space in that way. When I was there, we hadn't yet gotten to the place of making a long-term arrangement with an outside sort of like a really wild space, but I know that was aspirational.
Here, I think they use the park for filming that movie about knights. And the fight that was in some, but I also saw school buses down on the roads that they may have used to come there. I don't, or vans that was, those yellow ones.
And what your school? Is it not more like that or different?
We're just starting.
Do you have a space?
No.
It's so interesting to me since I've been here. I've noticed that the governance system and the sort of the freedom unschooling aspect of it don't necessarily, they're not necessarily dependent or as interwoven as I had expected them initially. So it's really interesting to see that different governance types can still ultimately, provide this environment of freedom. that sort of looks the same in the end in a lot of ways, even though the structure and the social systems are quite different.
Yeah, and I think that the similarities between Albany Free School and the Circle School are far greater than the differences. We're talking about compare and contrast, but both schools are obviously committed to children's self-direction, to, as Lamont Daniels said, they're more about the development of a person than pursuit of an academic curriculum. The element Mary Lou mentioned, used the word democratic at one point. Although she said the Albany Free School has no philosophy, she then proceeded to tell us a little bit about what it was.
Exactly. We were
Which I appreciate. And while she sort of approaches it from a feeling way, she's feeling her way through it and the principles, I think this kind of school makes it a little bit more explicit. But still, the similarities are there. So, you know, it's fun to compare and contrast, and the core of it, the idea that kids have within them the resources to navigate the world and their lives and manage their lives is the strong commonality.
It's funny because I recently made the same mistake when trying to describe it to somebody. I said, well, there's no like shared philosophy. And I was like, well, yeah, there is, obviously. But what I meant was like ideology or whatever.
Yeah.
In terms of like, you think about schools that are religious or like the Montessori or Waldorf way. And this is kind of the like antithesis of that in a way, but like freedom is the philosophy. And so to try to explain that, like, actually there are some core values that are inviolable, and it's difficult to pin that down verbally without seeming to contradict yourself.
One thing that kind of puzzled me there is no older teenagers. Like the oldest kids look like 13, and you know, sometimes it's understandable. Like, for example, you start in school, and maybe kids will grow up and they'll become older. But that, even if if it was shot in early 2000s, the school existed for a long time, 69. And it's and I don't know how much what we see affected by that there is no older teenagers, and which is in my view detrimental, little bit detrimental. There is too much adults involved on my sense, because there is no older kids there.
I agree with that. I believe the Albany Free School, I don't know if I can be heard, but
Yeah, please.
I think they had a separate high school program, like in a separate location, but it was still affiliated with the school. I don't know if it's still in existence. But I think that having them commingle with the other kids is really important. And I've always just been a little disappointed about that, about their school. I think they do a lot of things really admirably, but I think if you don't have the full age range from the youngest children all the way to adulthood, then you are limiting what kids are able to envision, like how they can picture themselves getting to that point. And I think you're also limiting something really important, which is teens, people being able to go head to head with staff in a confident way and have, see things differently. And I think that's really important for everybody to see that happening. So, and I get younger kids don't tend to have the vocabulary to pull that off.
The Circle School did not have older teens, high school grades, until mid to late 1990s. So we were in existence for quite a while without those older teens, and we knew early on we really needed those older kids. It was because of the way school licensing works in Pennsylvania that it was very difficult to add the high school grades, but it adds an important dimension to have kids of all ages. And I agree with what Michelle said. It's really important for kids of all ages to be able to see, to look ahead, to emulate and see the tracks of those older kids.
I had a question about that actually, if I might.
Okay, Mark.
Was there a reason for the decision to not include the older kids in the school?
Yes.
I was a little confused about that.
Yeah, the reason was that in Pennsylvania, the high school grades, 9, 10, 11, 12 are separately licensed. And the way that they're licensed is different. For the grades up through grade 8, the licensing is, it's elementary licensing. I mean, the staff were required to hold and are required to hold elementary teaching certificates. But for grades 9 through 12, a school is required to have staff who have certificates in all of the traditional academic subjects that are taught at the secondary level. And so it took us a while to make that happen and to add those secondary grades, but it was strictly related to licensing.
Is that why we're not seeing it in the school that we saw in the video? Does it have to do with licensing or no?
Well, that's New York State, but yes, it probably has to do with licensing in New York State as well. Now, for us, it took us a while. When we started, we had a concentration of younger kids, and those darned kids grew up. I mean, they aged and they went through the school like a mouse through the body of a snake. I mean, it was so as they grew up, we realized we need to do something about this, or that digested mouse is going to get expelled. But it was a difficult step. It took us years to do that, and a couple of tries to make it happen.
One thing that surprised me, on another hand, if you see alumni and they provided years in the school, some of them it's 11 years, which means that they're going to mathematically they're going to the adolescence.
I'm sorry, that's beside the point, but they admit children at Albany preschool as young as 3 years old.
3 years.
3 to 14 are the ages they serve, so it's possible theoretically to spend 11 years there. So maybe that is back from your point.
No, it's very, thank you, it's helpful.
So Catherine, if you didn't hear, in this school, they admit children from 3 years old to the 8th grade.
But one thing that attracted my attention, it's age segregation that I see there. Like, for example, there are younger kids, very young kids who visited together to the barn. And I'm surprised because like my son attended progressive school in California, and they had something like that, animal barn. And he loved animals, and he stayed well until at that school in California until like probably 11 years old. He was 6th grade, and he was always there, and a lot of kids of different ages were there. So for me, it's a strange that the kids, younger kids only were going there. And there are another, I watched that video already several times. There is one boy that some mentioned about something. There is some activity and only from grade 8 to from grade 3 to grade 8 participate or something like that. So quickly mentioned that, which surprised me because like my expectation that kids here don't know anything about grades. Like if you are like, what grade you are? Like, what? You probably like, they don't understand what I'm talking about. But they're mentioning that, which means it's important at that school.
I don't know if that's true. I think that kid may have recently come from a public school and he still had that mindset.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's age segregation. I don't have any reason to think there is. I think the filmmaker just happened to capture that particular group of kids going on that expedition. But I think there was like age diversity in the filmmaking with the swords. I think there was some age diversity there.
Except younger kids.
And certainly age diversity in the woods trips that were going on there. I don't know. I hope they don't segregate.
Was there a line at one point about going down to the older kids' room?
Yeah.
I remember a kid going through the school and saying that. I don't know what that means, but it seems like they were allowed to go there.
But it's still kind of older kids' room.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of missing information that I would like to ask them, because I kind of felt, I don't know, they started that math lesson and then they just cut it off. And I would like to know, what do they do in that math lesson? Remember that one child was at the blackboard and the others were just going to say something and we don't know what happened. Or that teaching of writing or cursive or.
And one way actually mentioned interesting things, which is surprising because it goes against everything that's said in that video. that it's required. Remember, his name is Andrew. Now I actually remember his name. And he said it's required to write 3 books in cursive. And I don't like it because my hands is get hurt. And like, that's interesting.
No, not at the old.
He was talking about his previous school.
Previous
Yeah,
school.
He was talking, that's what I thought. He was
Okay.
talking about previous
Good.
school, yeah.
But I did wonder, how did those kids come to be in the math lesson and the handwriting
Right,
lesson?
right. Like, who organizes it, in what way? There is a lot of missing information in this video.
And who asked for the classes? Like I know, again, in a circle school, there is some place which is, I don't know where it is right now, when the kids can ask for lessons, right? For the classes, whatever. They want to organize, they want to study something. I remember that it was in the old building, it's just place when the kids were writing something like that.
Oh, the happenings board.
Happening, okay.
If someone wants to put up a
okay.
sign-up sheet for a field trip or a class or a book
exactly.
discussion group or something,
It's
the
this
happenings
one.
board is where to
Okay,
go.
Okay, I cannot miss it. I
But
expected it was
often,
there.
often kids just go to someone and say, can I do a class with you? And if they ask me that, I say, do you want to do it by yourself with me, or do you want to invite other people? And yeah,
So the cursive writing that we saw here, it could have been, somebody goes to Beth and says, I want to do cursive writing, and then 2 other kids join in, either from the beginning or because they see it happening and they want to be part of it.
Yeah, but that's what's important for us to know, how it, and
How
not
did
in
it
the
come to
middle, and just a snippet, actually.
Yeah.
People who don't know anything about the self-directed or self-learning and democratic school, watching this would be a completely puzzle.
Yeah.
We have some kind of framework.
I also wondered, to what degree do parents influence what their kids do at school? So might those children have been in that cursive class because a parent said to one of the teachers, I'd really like my child to learn cursive or be in the cursive class that I hear is that.
here's something, I just went to their website that I'm sure has a huge impact on their program. It says, our kitchen is a fully functioning classroom where we prepare 2 hot meals every day. Students help choose, plan, and cook the meals. That's a huge undertaking.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
I wondered about that when I saw the cups being stacked and moved around.
And it's kind of almost like requirement because people need to eat.
Yeah.
And so it has to be there.
So you see Chloe also in the beginning.
Yeah.
They are organizing a dining room at that point.
But again, how does that happen if it's a non-coercive environment? How does it happen? How can you reliably ensure that 2 hot meals are delivered every day if the students can decide not to do it?
Yeah, I don't feel like helping today.
Well, okay, but it may be like our chore system, which you could describe as coercive. It's a civic duty. The difference I could see with Albany Free School is that if I'm correct, that they're clearly leaning more towards the communitarian side than the individual side, then it would be well within their framework to require everyone to take turns doing kitchen duty, which is, it's not a categorical difference between Albany Free School and the Circle School. It's more like a difference of degree.
Yeah, at the Circle School, everyone has to do a chore each day, and people have to serve on JC periodically. So maybe there's lunch service.
Yeah.
And maybe some of those adults that we saw, they help with those meals. Because there's a lot involved.
I saw like a
making
bunch
meals
of
for all those
adults
people.
making those pizzas, if you remember.
Yeah.
Around the table where there were pizzas on the table, and there were only adults making them at that point. But those were-
That was adults, not older kids?
I don't think they were all the kids.
Okay.
But maybe I'm wrong, but I somehow saw just like 5, 6 in there.
You want to say something? I'm sorry. You
Well, only that it's part of the Albany Preschool's mission to accept children regardless of their ability to pay. And I think part of that is a commitment to feed them.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that is, as Jim said, that's part of their communitarian approach. It may be that it's not part of the school's course of structure, but maybe that if you don't help cook, you don't eat. You know, everyone, like that may be their plan for making sure that the community eats lunch, and breakfast. That the community is making together.
I will try to reflect what you said. It may be because that school accepts people whether they can pay a tuition or not. And maybe the reason they may force people to work is to make sure that the food is cooked so everybody has something to eat. Obviously, there are some poorer families there that may be only eating in school. And so maybe they say who doesn't work doesn't eat or something like that.
Mark's train is at a stop.
It's a bus now. I've moved to a different mode of transport.
Oh, okay.
What about that scene at the beginning of the film when there's two little kids, boy and a girl, they get a fight, which is, I'm not sure I understand what it's about, but it's about some stick and the teacher interfere in that. What do you think about that? How it will be done here at the school, Circle School? Would you interfere in that or not? How it was, like, what do you think about that? Yeah. Remember, the kids were eating something like
berries.
Berry leaves.
But they're not really berries, they're just leaves.
Right. But you make it, and
That
then
one kid was really stuffing it in.
And then the boy and the girl got into some fight. Another boy came to the camera and said, don't they look very mad at each other?
Yeah.
And then they were, I don't think it's about the stick. I think it was, he took something that maybe that stick that she was using for some berries.
I think he wasn't letting, it was like he was trying to claim territory. He was saying like, this is my clubhouse and you can't be here. And she was saying, no, this space is for everybody.
Right.
And he was saying, no, it's not, you can't come in here. And the fight escalated until she hit him.
And he fell on the ground, and that's when the adult came to kind of like mediate their fight.
Right,
to
because
have
then
them
he
talk
burst
to each
into
other.
tears and then she got upset. He was crying and they were very young children. So I'm really interested in this question because 5 and 6-year-olds in this environment in particular, it seems very challenging to me because developmentally their impulse control is not where older children's impulse control is. It's just a biological fact of brain development. So
Well, as I'm trying to picture myself in that situation, it feels like it's very dependent on the individuals involved, my knowledge of them, my relationship with them. But I think one possibility for me would be to move closer, just physically closer, not paying attention, maybe deliberately not paying attention, but just be there as a beacon of adultitude and sort of an influence that would encourage them to bring out the more mature and less violent aspects of themselves. I would intervene if I thought somebody was going to get hurt. I mean, if I saw a kid swinging a stick and about to hurt somebody, then absolutely I would physically intervene. But I would have been reluctant, as I'm remembering that scene, I would have been reluctant. I'm really interested to hear what you would say about that, Beth. Not to put you on the spot. But if you don't, I'll hit you with a stick.
Well, that was one of many instances where I wished I'd had more information. Like I wanted to see how it resolved itself because it felt like the adult was I couldn't tell whether she was trying to clarify or get ready for some moralizing when she asked, are you trying to keep her out?
Right.
Because if she was just trying to clarify, that would be one thing, but if she was gearing up to say, oh, we can't do that, it's not okay to try to keep someone out, that would be another thing.
Well, also, I hate to say it, but I would probably be influenced by the presence or absence of a camera. Knowing that the whole world could be watching is not something I would easily dismiss and ignore.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, people from Russia and New Zealand, and Philadelphia. And Baltimore, right.
And Mark is probably New York or New Jersey now.
Yeah, what I saw of the adult intervention, I approved of, because like Beth said, you couldn't really see where she was going with that, but it's all we saw was she was talking to them about the situation. They were in high emotion. She was modeling calm and just seemed to be clarifying the situation. She wasn't correcting anything. She wasn't giving the solution. She wasn't telling them what to do. She wasn't doling out punishments. She was just a calm adult presence speaking the situation.
Well, that was the appearance, but I'm with Beth. It could have gone any number of places.
Right, and
that they
that
didn't
would
show.
have been more of an issue for me.
One thing that it reminds me of my childhood, because at 5, I realized when adults, teachers coming, and I'm in conflict with other kids, it's a very good strategy to start crying. And that girl reminds me of that, because she started crying again. I don't know. I cannot say that for sure that that's exactly what she's doing, but it could be very smart.
Do you think it might have been like take 5? You know, we've done it 4 times. It didn't work the first 4. Do you think the thing I think is that what you observe is that the utterances that are coming forth, in a sense, are complete. You know, there's just like we now are speaking and people finish what they're saying. There's no obvious interruption apart from when I do it. And so the utterances are complete, and the kids and the adults then all have a chance to, in a sense, and pretty comfortably say what it is that their viewers, you know, so the little boy that was even wielding the stick, he was able eventually to say that it was because of some earlier situation where the girl was disrespecting him. And that's a fair enough thing to say, you know. I mean, it's not fair enough to hit someone with a stick. Or it was an iron bar. Might have been an iron bar. But yeah, so you know, the sort of Bakhtinian idea of speech genres of primary and secondary discourse, you know, comes through, as well as the notion that it's not just something between, it's not just between you and me. It's me speaking to a whole group, and the group is polyaural. It listens. You know, the audience has to be theorized as well as the speakers. So, I mean, it seems to me very, very interesting. The whole concept seems interesting. That's it.
It's very interesting. But to come back to the age, because these kids were all alone in that age range, and the adults. There were no other a little bit older kids with them, so kind of the activity looked like organized for the littlest kids only. And that's my question for that, how much they mingle together. Because it could have been different if they were.
Maybe they just naturally gravitated to doing that particular thing outdoors at that age because it's just more appealing at that age.
Could be.
Well,
Do we also, go ahead.
well, I'm also on their website, and they talk about every group of students goes on a big trip in the spring. The junior high class embarks on the most ambitious. Our oldest group, which must be the junior high class, goes on a major 7 to 10 day trip. And the kids are expected to raise all the funds and organize the trip themselves.
That reminds me of Project Learn. I was in Philadelphia in Project Learn, which is a semi-democratic, democracy for parents more than for children. But it was the groups were divided by age, not by class, but maybe 2 or 3 age levels through which you go, similar to, but not like Montessori, because it was like you pass as an individual in your tempo through these groups. Sometimes you stay in a group for a year, maybe, or 2, and sometimes 3, depending on where you gravitate.
One of the differences I saw, there were clear indications that they organized the school, or the teachers organized activities for kids and plan them more than we do here. The painting session where they had many cups and brushes standing ready was a scene that looked like not like something we would see here.
I think the only, maybe not the only, but what we really saw that the kids organized was the movie that Miles was doing and organized. And all their frustrations, with how to do this and that, but that was really their idea.
Well, did you notice the size of the staff? I mean, just in the final credits? I don't know how many students they had 20 years ago, but that was an enormous list of staff. And I think that maybe partly, not back in the day, I don't know at what era this was true, whether it was true when the film was made or whether it's true now, but I think staff were only paid like an intern stipend. They were not actually paid a salary. And so that radically changes what adults can be in the space, I think, and turnover might be like, and all sorts of things.
Actually, there is a wonderful, there is a website that when I sent email, I think I included that website when there is a video. But below that, there is another very interesting interview with a parent who became a teacher there. And it's looks like it's much more recent. And she talks about that she basically is getting free like lodging. So she lives somewhere on the campus, or I don't know. It's difficult to understand that.
Maybe in the birthday bill.
She gets free food, and I think there is also free tuition for I think daughter. But that's basically it. You're absolutely right. They mentioned something small stipend that she mentioned, but basically that's it. You're absolutely right. And something about medical, I don't remember exactly what she mentioned, but basically no salary.
And that has a huge impact on the community, because only people who can afford to do that, and afford, I mean financially, but also just within the structures of their life, are staff candidates. And so that greatly limits the adults that students are exposed to.
And also it makes my understanding that it's mostly parents who will be teachers.
Which again, is a limitation.
I'm just
you don't, it doesn't allow for much age diversity among the staff either, which I think can be a really huge value to the school.
Oh, that's a very interesting idea,
It probably does promote the family atmosphere that I think they value in a way that we do not.
One interesting thing that I want to ask you, like, what you think about that? Please, Chloe has some kind of impairment, not only speech, but maybe emotional, and we talked about that. How common it is in the circle school or the schools like that to have kids who have who are kind of what is called
neurodiversity. Yeah, I think it's very common because this kind of schooling is very appealing to parents of kids who don't fit the norm conventional schools. So yeah, I think it's fairly common. I think it would be easy for a school like this to quickly accumulate enough students who are far enough from the norm that a school would get a reputation for being a specialist in that field. And there are, of course, schools that are explicitly that, but that would change the culture and the nature of the school quite a bit.
Yeah, I
And
heard
very much
commentaries about Summerfield, that's a school for emotionally challenging people.
here kids who with ASD who are on the autism spectrum, I think would fill a school like this very quickly in some circumstances. Over a few years, I guess pre-pandemic now, I think the Circle School was kind of pushing and testing to see how far along the spectrum can we go and still have kids thrive. And although we weren't testing this, I also wonder at what point, what proportion of a population can we absorb and still serve everybody.
In that meeting, one interesting thing for me was they never asked Max whether or not he's still mad at Chloe. And I think part of that maybe he's mad at her because of she's different. And it's almost like elephant in the room, which is not yet discussed at all.
He said she was mean to him.
Yeah, and you can hear, that's why I asked you to even to notice, she's focused on that because she's almost like a pest a little bit, and he's irritated that at least it looks like very much non-verbally. She constantly asks him when he comes to visit them, and he's like constantly trying to even walking faster to almost like brush her off. And it's looked like there is a history of the relations, and he tried to talk a little bit about that, how she's going and talk to the teachers and reports on that, but that's almost like never get into discussion, and that's why I'm saying there is, sorry to say, but I think it's adults control that meeting, not kids. That's what I. And
but on the other
Chris
hand,
steered it. Chris certainly steered
he
it.
was he didn't want to talk about anything. He said, okay, I'll apologize and goodbye.
Yeah.
They actually reopened.
No, that's right. But there is that they kind of finally investigated and found that he was mad at her. But we don't know, like a little bit he explained why, but it feels like he continues to be mad, and that's not resolved, and not even like, oops, we're done.
Well, I think that really illustrates the limitations with the community meeting. I think it seems like a good idea at first glance, but I think that the fact that the kids were to say anything they could to get out of there indicates that they're tired of having to go and sit in these meetings and have their activities interrupted. And that is true for all kinds of meetings at every school like this I've ever visited or worked at or been to. So I don't have a solution to that, but I know that meeting fatigue is a real thing, and I don't know what the solution is. And I also think that, yeah, I think Chris steered it in order to make it brief enough that human beings could tolerate it, like to keep it productive, but it still was only productive up to a very limited place, right? All we found out was she has a history of annoying him. He responds in ways that aren't entirely appropriate. Okay, meeting adjourned. Like that, you know what I mean? It didn't go very deep. And I don't know how deep it could have gone, especially with the entire school sitting there being part of it.
I don't think it really can go that deep at the ages that those children were at, honestly, because I have a son who is about Max's age, and even when it's just he and I, in the past, when I've tried to delve into issues of empathy and understanding the condition of another child that's like neurologically diverse, he just zones out. He can't. And so I've kind of reached a point where I'm like, in this world, like the Chloe type of person will have to learn to cope with her feelings being hurt by people who don't understand her. And the Maxes of the world will have to learn to realize that if they get agitated by people who are different and they act out, there will be a response to that that's not positive. So I don't know that much more has to be done. I think that we are often, I don't know what it is that adults want. It's like we want to make it perfectly okay when it's okay for it not to be okay. Like it's okay for the kids to feel uncomfortable and to feel hurt by each other. And that's
Right.
life.
But given that that is about as far as we're gonna be able to get, I do question, and I actually lean more communitarian than the circle school, but I question the need to stop the activity of every single person in the school to come together to get to that place, which is very shallow water.
Yeah.
I find
agree
it,
with
I
that.
find it very intrusive on everybody else's process and day and, you know, liberties, which is what supposedly we're offering here. Because Chloe and Max are at
Right.
an age and are at a development in their personal life where they can't really sort it out themselves. So that's why I prefer smaller group opportunities to do that. So there's fewer people that are interrupted.
And less shame for those
Exactly. I
in
also
the
think the
spotlight.
public nature of it can have some negative effects.
Yeah, and
So-
also it takes away from the energy of things that do require a large meeting. If you already had to go to 3 petty little Max
But
and Chloe meetings.
I think that from my perspective, there was a lot of depth of process that happened for those 2 individuals in the meeting that, goodbye, everyone. That really brought them to a developmentally sort of greater, like push them to their edge and beyond because of the community support. And if it were like optional and people didn't come, then perhaps they wouldn't have that support of their community to help them to like bring in different perspectives and bring structure to their thoughts and experience in order to like then grow into, you know, a greater capacity and
That is
beyond their
true,
edges
and
and
meeting
beyond their
fatigue
discomfort.
is also true. So it's like,
yeah.
those things are true.
You know, I'm actually moving, I'm very coming from communal approach. And initially when I came to school, to sort of school, when you're like, wow, there's such bureaucracy, there is this and that. And the more I kind of attend your school, the more I get appreciated that with that, the less I become communal. And I'll tell you why. What's interesting is, in my view, this communal approach, and you can hear these discussions about not only about Chloe and Max, but you know, remember they discussed about like exclusion, some friends exclude others. This communal approach constantly trying to find harmony. And it's more harmony, like perfect order in a way. So no, everybody's fine, nobody excludes anybody. And it's also very oppressive. And I think that, like, I appreciate your approach, which is I call societal approach rather than communal. It's not individual, it's societal. Like keep strangers at peace. It's not idea to create kumbala around this, but just keep peace. Like, for example, to decide whether or not scaring other kids who doesn't want to be scared of you or not. It's not about creating friendship among them or harmony or understanding, but just to create a boundary of the peace, how to keep peace. And everything has become kind of private things, and it's coming time to time to discuss that, maybe, but it's not something that, as we said, everything should stop and suddenly to solve interpersonal problems of everybody, in any distress. The distress happen and part of life, and we have to deal with that. But it's not part of the school constantly interfering that every distress that's happening. On the other hand, it's important to put boundaries and when for whatever reason, without even going deeper what it's about, the boundary should be there for whatever reason. And that's my trajectory right now. I'm moving much closer to that, to appreciate the societal approach rather than communal approach.
Also, I don't think that the whole group has to be always engaged. It could be smaller groups, people who are immediate in some way or interested in the social issues like that. Or it could be times, like you have JC, it could be organized in that sense. You don't have to go yell community meeting, put a note into the box, complain, and then it will be solved when the time comes to that, or discussed when the time comes. So that it's kind of a little bit less intrusive to everyone.
Your emotions can calm down.
Right.
too.
And
Yeah.
hitchhiking on what Megan said, I think there was significant processing that the two kids experienced. I don't like that it was imposed in that format, but I think it was beneficial to them. And I see that same sort of thing happening in JC. I have to admit, I enjoyed watching Max squirm a little bit as he didn't want more information to come out, and as more information came out, he would release a little bit more. So he was feeding it out as he seemed required to maintain a plausible position, and we see that squirming in JC a lot, which I get a kick out of. I
I
shouldn't maybe,
love
but
when he was like, I would never do that,
yeah.
except I did.
Yeah. Except
I love
did.
that moment of self-realization where he was like, okay, I recognize that I'm a person that doesn't want to be someone who does
Yeah.
that, and yet I'm recognizing
Yeah.
that I did. Yeah.
The advantage you get from waiting for another time to meet to talk about it is definitely that the emotions have cooled, but also memories have faded.
Yeah.
And so that becomes very tricky. I just wanted to mention that the Three Rivers Village School, which is a school like this in Pittsburgh, disbanded their judicial committee recently. And they are operating without a judicial committee. They did it as a pilot, decided to extend that pilot for a few extra months. And they currently have a handful of school meeting members, so students and I think one staff, maybe two, who have like raised their hands and offered to be conflict resolution team of some kind. And that is who you go to now when you can't solve it yourself. You go to that team of people and they help you to sort it out. I don't know any more details than that. It raises a million questions, but they seem to like it well enough that they're continuing to try it. Now, the school only has 19 students at the moment. So that is a huge, and it's not a very diverse school at the moment. So maybe that is what allows for that system to work in such an ad hoc way. But I just thought it was
Really more like a family than
we had a mediator system that ran parallel to JC for a time, and it was very popular and very successful. Not often used, but when it worked very well. So I hope it works well for TRVS. I have to say, maybe my favorite line in the whole movie was one near the very beginning where I learned a new way to use a certain verb when the child said, you go to preschool to get learned. It's something that happens to you.
Yeah.
They do it to you at preschool.
Yeah.
Good quote. What do you think about this whole scene about, again, this tragedy happened with the van and
Who did that? There's some.
Yeah.
The filmmaker.
Create drama.
Yeah.
Well, one thought I had was like, who organized the memorial service with the candles and the singing? And I was wondering if that was adult led.
Yeah.
Looked to me like about.
Yeah. And is
Who
that
taught
really
them that
ideal?
song?
Yeah. Well, it was a simple song, so they might have learned it like just on the spot, but I am curious about in a situation like that where they're feeling communal grief or struggling with something, all of them together, is it the adult's place to lead then?
We
We had a tragedy in my summer camp, which was in Yugoslavia on a small island without any other human dwelling, just our camp. And one of my very good friends, a year younger than me, he was 13 at that time, he died. He died in the water, but he didn't drown in the water. But when we noticed him, he was just drifting like that, and we pulled him out. And unfortunately, most of the adults were outside of the island. They went for shopping for food. There was just the doctor was there, and the nurse, and two more. And for 2 hours, we were trying to revive him,
Wow.
giving him breathing and adrenaline. Anyway, finally, the help came, they took him. Later on, it was found out through the autopsy that he died of he had a thymus gland that was supposed, that's a gland behind this chest bone that's supposed to disappear by the puberty. And for some reason, it doesn't matter, he didn't die. But then there was a commemorational service for him. He was very popular kid in the school, in the camp, and we all gathered around at our camp big site in the woods, and people were talking. It was not organized by adults. It was organized by the 14 and 15-year-olds and the counselors, which were between 14 and 17, 18 years old. And it went for about 2 hours. Like the whole morning was this heroic trying to revive him. And then this, and we sort of started to disband. And one little kid that was 6 years old came to the head counselor. And in that very big silence, because everybody was so struck, just said like, is there going to be swimming today? And that made us all cry. But because that was so, life goes on, you just can't stop life, no matter what happens. So that I never will forget.
I love that the teens in your story did take the initiative to do with that kind of memorial service to help the community process, but I wonder, like, especially in this environment, it seems like they aged out around 13.
Well,
so-
we did everything. The doctor told us how to give him the artificial breathing. We were doing it, we were changing places. I was in that team, pushing his legs up and down, pumping his arms, blowing in his mouth, all kinds of things.
It seemed, if I'm correct, when they were doing the memorial service, it seemed like, well, there was like the daily activity circle, and that maybe it kind of, I don't know if it was part of that or it grew out of that, but I do see that they have some community gathering points in which, if something needs to emerge, it can emerge there, and it seems like it's sort of from everyone that's there, not necessarily like the adults are planning it.
Unfortunately, we have to go.
Oh, thanks for
Thank
coming.
you for inviting us.
This is very interesting. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Yes, you too. Good luck with your school.
Your
Thank
daughter, she looks just like you.
At least from here up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good night, Reb. Good night, Michelle.
We should probably go before too long.
Where are you staying?
We are staying in a house on Harris Street.
Harris?
In Harrisburg?
Yes.
Oh, that's where I live.
You're the neighbor? A neighbor? What's the number?
220.
We're 216.
What?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, wow.
I'm glad that I asked that question.
Yeah.
Well, come hang out with us.
Yeah, wow.
That's so funny.
Maybe Mandy can write with you tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Yeah.
I leave at 7:40.
All right. Well, we'll see.
260. So you guys must be on the other side of the house that I just found out is not abandoned. I thought it might be.
Oh,
There's a green door.
bright green door. Double door.
Wow, that's
Two skinny doors side by side.
Airbnb or
Yeah.
friends?
So what are the streets? What block are you on?
I'm between Green and Penn.
Oh, okay.
We are too.
That's
so weird.
sorry.
one comment I want to say, and it's so bad that JD is not here because he's also a science teacher, right? Because I used to be a science teacher in Russia. And one thing that like bothered me in that video, it's about, remember they talked about they're in the woods and the Chris telling them about thunderstorm. And he's providing a typical
And
myth
the tires on the car.
about tires. Yes, it's like, what?
That's not true.
It's not true completely. It's actually completely opposite of what he just said. No, it's safe. It's safe to be in the car, but completely opposite reasons. It's because of the car made out of metal. And thunderstorm and the whole thing is looking for the easiest path. And because of metal, it's going around of that. And tires is not a problem for the to pass because they're wet, and it will get to them. But it's very safe to be in the car because it's going around of this, electricity going around that rather than.
And especially if you're in the woods, you don't want to be by a tree.
Exactly.
So it's not the insulation of the rubber.
It's not nothing to do with
Well,
insulation.
what I enjoyed about that was that right after that scene, they cut to a scene of kids on tire swings. And I'm thinking, okay, so now these kids think they're safe if they're on the tire swing.
Exactly.
That's a rubber tire.
Right, and it's absolutely not safe at all. That's why our shoes are not safe for the thunderstorm, because it will get through. Wow.
First of all, the thunder doesn't know when it's starting to strike you, whether it will go through or not.
Well, it is actually for the field. It is. It is
I feel like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, not to be a downer, but I feel like if we had a mandatory meeting, even a commemoration service where people are feeling a need for that, there would be people in the community who would not want to come and who would talk and be disruptive and leave at the very first opportunity. And I also think maybe the same people would behave the same way in the meeting where they were doing conflict resolution.
Council meeting.
Yeah. And I think that there are students, again, here, and I'm not singling out this year students, I mean, it would have been true all along the way, that could quickly make things turn sour when they're giving feedback to the people doing the conflict resolution. So it can be a tricky thing to deal with
It
all
seems
of
like
that.
they really probably built that culture that they have over so long.
Yeah,
To just
could be.
start it, I'm sure, for someone just coming
Yeah.
into it, they might not know how to be appropriately there.
No, but there is another possibility that they suppress it. Because it creates constantly the problem when everybody has to be shared about something. It's people are different, and I kind of resonate what you said, but it resonates with me very much. It creates this oppressive situation when you constantly need to be in the same on the same page with everybody else. And
I wonder
it's-
how they
and on
enforce
systematic
it.
basis, by the way, it's not just, it's very difficult to be that. And for some people, it's difficult, and different time it will be very difficult. And the only way to do that, they will be suppressing or moralize or trying to do something with that. And in my view, it's absolutely unnecessary, and it creates, and by the way, even grieving, people grieve in very different ways. It's not like for some people, they need this community, and for some they don't. And for some, we want completely like shake and move away from that and not even think and talk about that. And this is a very good point in my view.
And I'm the kind of person that would love for the kumbaya stuff. I would love that. And yet it's demoralizing, I think, when you want to call people together to do something constructive or supportive or whatever, and you have batch of other people saying, do we have to do that? Can we go now? And
We required everybody to attend the first 15 minutes of school meeting, as you guys saw this morning. And the way we get everybody on the same page is with the tradition of applause after each announcement. We're only required to be present during announcements, but everybody's in one sense on the same page between each announcement.
It makes it quite funny.
Yeah.
Rather very entertaining.
We had some guests here a few weeks ago who were here from the beginning of announcements, and the first announcement was about their presence. And then everybody applauded, and they told me later they were very confused. They weren't sure whether they should applaud for themselves or not. They thought the applause was spontaneous applause appreciating them. When it was really just the demarcation between announcements.
But it keeps the energy real positive.
Yeah.
It really, really does
Yeah.
because of the mental
Yeah.
connection, the neural pathway that we have
And it
around
gets some
applause.
physical activity.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. I love it. I'm definitely gonna lift that.
Beth, what you were saying had me picturing our closing circle last year.
Oh.
So we have the tradition on the last day of school to have a closing circle where people will gather and share memories from the year, the previous school year. And it's not compulsory, but this past closing circle in June was my first closing circle for 12 years, first 12 years. And there are people who, even though they were choosing to be there, were kind of, it was not a kumbaya vibe. And it was kind of frustrating. It's that part of that closing circle was really nice.
Yeah.
Parts were sweet, parts were sad, parts were funny, and then parts were people, I don't know, making it not as fun.
How did you feel like it? Was it okay to do that or not? Like the fact that
It felt like a party foul.
Like a what?
A party foul.
Oh.
Yeah, it felt like, I don't know, people kind of putting themselves first in a way that maybe made it more fun to them, but kind of ruined the thing for everyone else.
Makes you wonder, is it worth it? Because now it's just created this animosity and frustration.
Yeah, I think there's a certain point where people just started leaving, being like,
Yeah.
well, screw this.
Yeah.
And it was kind of voluntary.
Yeah.
But I have initiated that every year. Every year. And I explained the ground rules in the beginning. And I don't know what would happen if I didn't do it. I don't know if anybody else would say, hey, aren't we supposed to have a closing circle today? I doubt if they would, because they're very, I think we have a lot of cliques here, and they're so into each other that they would spend the last day of school with each other and not think about everyone else.
Well, that was the thing that with the council meeting and with the daily activities session, I did kind of think like, it's kind of nice to see everyone together. And yeah, I mean, we're talking about how with school meeting, it's not always great. And even with the closing circle, even though that's not compulsory, it's not always great. But I really love snow days. And even times where we have had people out due to COVID, there have been like environmental factors that really break up those cliques. And makes for a really awesome social experience.
And a different kind of camaraderie at school with a smaller group that feels like they're kind of thrown together by circumstances.
And when you say snow days, you mean days that it snows, we still have school open, but not as many kids come. And so that's
It's like a breakfast club scenario.
Yeah,
Which, yeah, I
People
think
would
is,
never be together.
yeah, it's so good for kids. And I'm thinking back to like the structure that we had in youth group and when I was a teenager, which was my experience that was somewhat like this, a lot less structure. But the structure that we did have was, you know, we'd put in small groups sometimes and we didn't choose our friends. And that was actually really, really good for me in hindsight. I was so uncomfortable in the moment. And then I got to know people. All humans just get in their comfort zones, more so children, because they're so, especially teenagers, because their social awareness and anxiety as they're growing into their adulthood is so intense that to expect them to just get themselves out of their comfort zone is not really reasonable.
Yeah.
Yet there's the issue of their freedom.
And that's why when we have a cluster of little boys that like to play video games next to each other. They're all on their own screen, but they somehow communicate and yell at each other and say, oh yeah, great, great. And anyway, if one of them has to be on JC in the meadow room, the whole group will go in there to keep him company.
You guys saw that. They got cited for contempt because they weren't quiet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cody, I share your appreciation of seeing everybody together. And I get a kick out of that, of announcements at school meeting for that reason. And I especially get a kick out of Declan's habit of singing happy birthday to whoever's birthday is that week. So every week we're singing happy birthday. And that is initiated by and led by a student.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. Remember that I visited.
Ah,
People had birthdays.
okay.
That's nice.
Yeah. He's still doing it.
Good.
Yeah, those minutes of school meeting were definitely the highlight of my day today too. I really loved seeing the kids all together and everybody clapping and singing happy birthday. It just felt very cozy and communal and lovely.
Yeah. And finding the right mix of communal and individual choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet, when the 15 minutes is over,
Off they
they're
go.
out.
And yet a mass of them went out there to play this, I think the same game. I couldn't really
Which was
tell, but
announced.
they seemed to stay in a big cluster.
Yeah.
So
And they played that for hours.
was it Gaga Ball that they were playing?
No.
No, it was that
Okay.
thing that Parker
Okay.
announced, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And boy, talk about a mixture of ages. We had the oldest and not the very youngest, but way young out there.
I love that.
And in good weather, it's not uncommon to see 20 people, 30 people all engaged in a game of capture the flag or I call it base tag, but it's not base tag, it's pickle, right?
That's one of the things that kind of I've learned here about this age integration almost like in very organic way. It's not like somebody say, oh, okay, you need to be together and remind them, but the kids very often like different ages together. They're running together, they're doing something together. Even if they play, sometimes they just in the very proximity that they monitor almost like what's going on with other kids, what they do.
And well, that's another aspect of the thought I had about that, the berry eating dispute, that if there had been older kids around, then there would have been less of a need for an adult to intervene too. Just the presence of the more mature people can make a huge difference. But even if the presence hadn't, one of the older kids who had been nearby might very well have paid attention. And we might not like the way they intervene, but that's
it's
okay.
organic.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the way that it is.
Yep, even 9-year-olds would do something.
Yeah.
And it's very different when a 9-year-old's like, knock it off, let her in.
Yeah.
Much different than an adult saying that.
Yeah.
And remember that we saw that scene very interesting that all the boys doing some construction of the blocks, and then they say baby's out, which is he concerns about safety. We don't know yet what will happen. But actually, later we realized what is happening,
Yeah,
and it is
well,
dangerous.
what did he say?
His baby's out.
I heard it and didn't understand what he said.
The
but
baby's
okay.
out, he said. And that's very good. He's very responsible, and he's very, like, he knows, he anticipates the danger.
Yeah.
And he
But they're
asked
gonna
them,
knock it, he's
Yeah.
knocking the base of that.
right, and the
Yeah.
whole thing collapsed. And the younger kids were staying away, actually, from that. And that's very nice. That's why I was thinking that if all the kids were there,
Yeah.
it would have been a very different situation. And that's why it's kind of, I don't understand this age segregation. I could understand that, okay, maybe in state of New York, they have this regulation or whatever, but it's going much deeper than that, at least from what we see. And one time I thought, okay, things might happen, but it's more than one time that it's happened. And mentioning about rooms and this and that.
The power differential is the thing that I've been thinking about since I got here. Like, yes, it's lovely and easy to say we're all just a bunch of people in the same space, just all being people, and age doesn't matter. But in our society, we know that adults have more power than children, and children know that too, especially I imagine when they first come in, like he was saying, you know, kids come in here and they're scared of adults. And that's why it's different if a 9-year-old would say, hey, knock it off, let her in, versus an adult, because the response from that, like, let's say 5-year-old child to a 9-year-old is going to be much less like panicked or intimidated by the power differential than if an adult said it. But it still communicates to him like, hey, this doesn't really work in human community. Like, that's not really the
Yeah, but
acceptable
that's
way to
exactly
behave.
like why you need that, all the ranges, because as Jill, what's her
Michelle.
name? Michelle said, older kids could be head to head with adults much better than the younger, but if you have all the ages, there is always somebody who is more like, you can say, okay, mind your own business.
Yes, completely agree. And so I just feel like the difficulty for schools like this, I imagine, or I hear talked about is like adults figuring out how to be, like when to intervene and how to intervene if you do, and what tone to take on, and what to lead and what not to lead, and what to offer and how often, and how much, like, just having that awareness of how much power you have just by being an adult is something that seems like would just be a constant challenge, because within ourselves, we're just ourselves. Like, I'm just me. I'm not this big, tall, scary adult person that I may be to a 5-year-old.
It is a challenge.
Yeah.
Sometimes kids, there will be something going on and a kid will say, Cody, this is happening. And I'll just go, oh. And they're always caught off guard because I think they're expecting me to intervene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or place some sort of judgment somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you don't intervene, to like just state like, hey now, or something like that, that makes it clear like who's in the right. And so when you don't do that and you just say, oh, like,
Now we're on our own.
yeah.
It's actually reminds me, there is a wonderful video done and the study done in, it's called Preschool in Three Cultures. And preschool, it's three cultures are Japan, China, and United States. And they did a study by now twice in 80s and 2000s. But one interesting thing is that in Japan, when there is a conflict among kids, and the little kids were coming to the teacher and said such and such happened, the fight happened or misbehavior happened, the teacher would say usually, oh, why are you telling me that? Do something about that. And the kids do. What's interesting, very little, like 4 years old, I remember there was that girls, they meet together and there is a boy who is in distress and they ask boy what's happened. And the boy was telling.
Hiroki stepped on my hand.
Right.
The girl says, oh, you're playing with Hiroki. Didn't we tell you not to play with Hiroki? He's bad news.
But
That serves you right.
and Chinese and American educators, they didn't like that because adults didn't interfere. And Japanese always refer to the, when they see, especially American, educators. They say, you know, it reminds us like almost like a marriage counselor. You're doing that constantly, like how you feel about this, how you feel about that, and right. And who is right, who is wrong, like. And by the way, kids really, you can see that the kids, little kids, very, very smart in terms of using adult power. Yeah, you can see that. It's so sophisticated way.
Well, the crying strategy that you mentioned. Yes.
Well, another strategy, what they were, I noticed that, wow, this is so smart, just to hug adult. They dispute actually about the shovel. And one kid's taking shovel, adults holding the shovel, and the other kids who is involved in the conflict hugging the adult. Guess on which side the adult is?
But it takes how many times we watched it not to notice that.
I didn't notice that.
It takes time to notice that. But the kid
With
is
that
very...
shovel, yeah, you have to watch it and then see, oh my God, he's pulling the shovel here, but here he's hugging the teacher.
This is a politician in the making.
And they're 4 years old. Yeah.
Oh, they're so savvy about like picking up on all of that unconscious stuff that gets passed between adults, from adult to child.
Almost like vibes.
Yeah, like energy that they just are like, oh, I know how this works and how to manipulate it.
I think they look at every curve of your eyes or mouth or something just to figure out what's the situation.
Body language, tone of voice.
So pandemic babies are going to be way better at it because they have to read just the eyes. They don't get the whole thing.
Right.
Wow.
That's probably true.
Also, they had, well, I don't know if this is good or not, but they could specialize because they only had 1 or 2 adults maybe to observe.
And another thing, I'm just, thanks to Peter Grace, that educating myself about childhood in hunter-gathering societies. And it's actually happening more or less what's happening here, which is kids are together of different ages and just learn to socialize with each other. By the way, one interesting finding, this is what surprised me because I didn't, I expect that many games they involved there, it's in preparation for the adult life. That's a big discovery there. Most games are not about that. It's about how to like navigate relationships. It's not so much they're learning how to become a better hunter or better gatherers, but more about like the games more about like how to solve the conflicts and to get along with each other and things like that. It's very interesting. And whole groups are together with what's interesting is even they conceptualize the child as someone who become independent. So before that, in many actually societies, they don't even give names to the kids because they're kind of continuation of the either mother or the whole community. But the name is given around 4 years old when they become independent. Usually this is the time when the weaning is ended, but also they start moving away and join other kids of different ages. And they're responsible, they become kind of responsible together as a whole group where whole problems are solved and so on and so forth. And so it's very interesting.
I was reading a book on the Coon people, I think. I can't remember if that's South Africa or a country like bordering South Africa, but anyway, it was written back in the 70s and the anthropologist who wrote it and made a relationship with this woman who basically told her life story, was saying that this was one of the last tribes to be completely untouched by the modern world. So it was really interesting to read about her childhood, which is a lot, as you say. They would leave the village entirely, the children would, and they would essentially create a place to practice life. So it was like organic free school. They would build a small village of their own. they would go and they would get like the supplies to build little huts, and they would make fires and they would cook food, and they would choose their spouses. And within that context, the adults left them alone. It was like the adults completely stayed away from that as like the kids' sacred space. But when the kids were in the actual village, the adults would reprimand them and kind of tell them like, no, you don't do that. Or like if they would get like too like physically affectionate or like whatever, doing something inappropriate that the adult deemed like not within their moral standards, they'd get a smack and told, you know, but if they went and did that in their child village, the adults were like, don't ask, don't tell. And I was like, this is so interesting because it's like essentially the idea of what we're trying to recreate with these schools here.
In many actually interesting about the punishment, the less the contact with they have with hunter-gathering societies, especially with the farmers, the less contact they have, the less punishment they are, or not both from adults and from all the kids to younger kids. So in the societies that completely almost not have much contact with the farmers, agricultural people, there is almost no punishment neither from the adults nor from older kids to the younger. And sometimes it could be very, in a lot of things, very annoying and almost dangerous, but they will not, like for example, in South America, I'm sorry, I think it's in Peru, I think there is some jungle there, the jungle, and the people live in the jungle and they walk there, and those who's considered to be children, which is not, so they kind of follow adults, but sometimes they, when the kids are young, children are young, sometimes adults carry them, but they slowly carry them less and less and less, which some kids don't like, and they start kind of tantrum that they want to be carried and they don't want to walk, and adults just move away from them. But it become a war of the nerves because it's like jungle is very dangerous, kind of not safe place. And the rule is if you cannot find a child within 2 hours, it's probably gone, eaten by the animals. So they move away and then they come back and they found the child like 30 minutes out because the child started wandering there. And you know, there is a compromise, but the child will be not punished, although the adults worry about that and whatever. So they will continue that kind of game of chickens in a way, who will blink first. But there will be no punishment and not yelling, reprimanding, whatever, despite the fact that it's really a problem, not only for the safety, but also hunting. You know, it's holding them from hunting, all of this kind of scenarios. But people basically become patient and it continues until it will be like mature enough to follow. In a way, they testing how mature the kid is. And to see what will happen. But will not punish, which is kind of amazing from the point of view of our culture. Like, what?
I was so worried about you.
Yeah.
Pruning the gene pool too there.
We have to head off and put our children in bed.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you. And
Yes,
nice
this
meeting you.
was wonderful. Nice
Have a
meeting you
wonderful
also.
stay.
Nice to meet
And good
you.
luck with your opening your school. We'll be
Thank
ready
you.
for
Yeah.
Where are you residing? Where is your?
Near Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So close, but not quite close enough. We're on our own.
And
Does
that school
Charlottesville have a
in
big
Wilmington, is
Waldorf?
it like
Yeah.
Following?
how long is it in
Yeah.
existence? The one that you mentioned.
With
I
yeah,
know quite a few
Michelle
people who
was
live in
really
Charlottesville,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
pretty much all into Waldorf.
I don't
But
think
I
they're
think-
open yet.
Oh, okay. That's
The
answer to my
environment is
question.
Yeah.
changing and there
So
are
they're
many
in
people that are
in
very
preparation
interested in our
to
project.
build.
Yeah, and
And
I think
I
that
think
they
the-
are
The
not as far
Waldorf School in
along
Charlottesville,
as Megan
especially
and
their
Alma.
response
I
to the
think
pandemic
Michelle
has
is,
frustrated a lot of
Oh, wow.
Michelle is still in the stage.
You know,
of
I mean,
trying
I
to
think
find
every
other people
school has
who have-
frustrated
who share the
families.
interest.
There's just no way around it.
Yeah.
With
Yes, I would like
everybody's
to
different
contact
feelings
her
about
just
it.
to
Yeah. So,
But
yeah.
it's an
maybe
interesting
to learn
thing
what
that,
she's
yeah,
planning
the
to do
democratic
or
school
whatever.
is becoming more.
I want to contact her. I
Yeah,
haven't
I think
contacted
people
Oh, you
her.
haven't yet?
Like,
Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
see,
haven't.
I
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. They're recognizing in the wake
Okay,
of the
so maybe-
pandemic something. I don't know if I can. put a
Thanks,
finger-
Mark.
Just
Good night, Mark.
Bye, Mark.
Yeah, it was good, really interesting, and you kept me company on the way home, so thank you.
You're helping me work up an appetite.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hungry, so I apologize that I decided to eat something, but yeah, it was very interesting discussion, so thanks.
Thanks, Mark, for participation.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Nice
See you
to see
soon.
you. Bye.
You too. Bye.